Hi. So this is a really important topic and one which I was shocked about when I first started doing Turo, and one which I continue to get lots of questions on, and that is the topic of insurance. So here's the deal. So in the US, you're going to need to select a Turo protection plan, and that's going to cover you for the time that your car is being rented. However, you will still need coverage for the times your car is not rented. And by the way, the last time I checked, the Turo protection plan begins the moment that the guest takes possession of the car, or if you're delivering it, the moment that you start the delivery, and it ends once it's returned. Remember, if I come across any updated information, I'll make sure to include it in that update section in the description. Okay, so again, you're gonna need additional coverage for those times that the car is not rented. So like when you pick up the car and drive it home, or take it to get cleaned or get maintenance, or if it's just sitting in your driveway. Here's the problem. Currently, most carriers won't insure you if you're using the car for car sharing. And remember, renting your car is called car sharing, while driving others around in your car like Uber is called ride sharing. You're going to want to remember that so that you can be very specific when calling insurance carriers, because there is a difference. And they offer different coverages for each. For example, some carriers actually do cover ride sharing, so like for Uber, whereas most carriers don't cover car sharing for Turo. When I first started looking into this, I got my insurance all set up with Progressive, and I was so happy because it was so easy and most importantly, so economical. To try to get the best rates, I even decided to try that snapshot device that they have where they offer you rates based on your driving. And that is actually how I found out about this crazy insurance conundrum. It was when I called Progressive to find out if I can swap out that snapshot device and use their app instead, since that car was going to be rented on Turo and I don't really know how people were going to drive it, and so it really wouldn't make sense to have that device on the rented car. After explaining it a few times, the representative advised that she would have to triple check with underwriting, but that she was pretty certain that they did not cover car sharing and that my policy would have to be canceled. She checked, and indeed my policy was going to be canceled, and so I was left to find alternate options. Now, some of you may say, well, you're the silly one that slipped up and told Progressive about Turo. However, as shocking, annoying, and inconvenient as that was to have to now find alternate insurance, I was actually very thankful that that happened. And here's why. So imagine this scenario. Let's just say that never came up and I stayed insured with Progressive, and sometime later, I was driving the car, say to get maintenance on it, and the road was wet, and let's say I slid on the road and totaled my car. Well, since the car wasn't rented, it's my responsibility, and so I would reach out to Progressive. Naturally, Progressive will start investigating, since even though I'm their insured, they're gonna wanna make sure that they are truly liable to pay out that claim before paying it. And so during their investigation, they find out that the car was being rented on Turo. Since that violates the policy rules, instead of paying my claim, they send me a letter indicating they will not be paying anything, since due to the breach of contract, my policy is actually void. So just picture that. Let's say you owe the bank $30,000 for this car, and now the insurance company is telling you they're not going to pay the claim, and you have no car, and you still owe that money to the bank. I can't even imagine being in that spot, and yet there's many hosts out there that are risking being in that exact situation. Some because they probably just don't know. Others because they're thinking that as long as the carrier doesn't find out, they're good. And then others that know the risk they're taking and just are willing to take it. And maybe they're good for years. Maybe they never file a claim. Maybe the insurance carrier never finds out and cancels their policy. Which again, whether or not the insurance company finds out and cancels your policy should not be the important thing to take into account here. The important thing to take into account is the moment you need to file a claim and you need coverage, whether the carrier is going to find out then and tell you that your policy is void and that they're not going to cover the claim. That's the scary part. So again, if someone decides to take that risk, then that's their choice. But as long as you're informed and you know what these risks are. In my case, I was thankful to find out when I did, because I did not want to take those risks. So once I found out, I first reached out to Turo, assuming that they for sure would have some guidance on this. But I was actually shocked to find out that they don't. They actually said something like, sorry, we don't really have any affiliations with any insurance companies, which I thought was crazy because I would think that they're big enough where at least they would have like some kind of warning to the host on their site about these insurance risks. Of course, course, that would not be good for their business, but I would think it would be like the correct or ethical thing to do, especially knowing that there's probably hundreds or thousands of hosts on their site that are facing these risks and may not even know about it, thinking that they're good, they're covered, they have insurance. Anyway, so I started researching and calling carriers, and I ended up finding a few that actually provide coverage specifically for Turo. However, they don't quite help everyone, since one of their requirements is that the car cannot be used for personal use. And so it'll only help those hosts that have cars that are being used specifically for Turo. So these companies are Lula, ABI, and GMI. And you can find links to their sites in the description. So let's look at some of the specifics with Lula, for example. And that's who I currently have, and I pay $79 per month per car, with a $1,000 deductible if your car is valued under $45,000, and a $3,000 deductible if the car is between $45,000 and $75,000. And I believe they don't insure above $75,000. So currently Lula will provide coverage for your car for the time it's not being rented. However, you can only use the car outside of Turo for business purposes. So picking up the car, taking it to get cleaned, taking it to get maintenance, and they give you an allowance of 300 miles per month for those purposes. You should also know that you're going to have a specific tracker on the car. Currently, their approved devices are Bouncy and Zuby, and you can find links to those in the description as well. So for the other ones, I know ABI is very similar to Lula. I actually had them first, but quickly jumped on Lula when Lula came out, just because they were integrated with CarSync, which was amazing and was available. That's no longer available. And GMI, I'm not too sure about, but if I find any specifics, I will add them in the description. Also, I did reach out to Liberty Mutual, and they actually provide coverage for Turo. However, in my case, the cost was so ridiculously high. I think it was about the same as, if not more than, my car payment. And so I've completely disregarded it. And I assume everyone else would too, since we're all trying to make a profit. But hey, it may be different for you or for your car or for your area. So I would definitely check them out. Now, keep in mind, all of this information applies to the US, and it can even vary from state to state. It should be the same for the most part, but there can be some differences. So I would definitely suggest that you reach out to carriers in your specific state. Something else that I want to point out is that you also have the option of getting regular commercial car rental insurance, but that's probably going to be a lot more expensive and may also have some additional requirements, such as a minimum number of cars on the policy, or that the cars be owned by an LLC. However, don't quote me on the commercial stuff right now, because I have not done any research on it, and so I just wanted to throw it out there and just make you aware. So again, my cars are currently on Lula. However, I continue to research to see if there's any carriers that decide to start covering car sharing. If I do, I will make sure to put it in the update section, and we'll most likely do an update video. All right, so I hope I provided some insight into this crazy Turo insurance situation and provided some awareness into the potential risks that some of you may be facing and didn't even know about. Like I said, I'm going to keep researching. Hopefully one of these carriers decide to start providing coverage for Turo, and that would really alleviate a lot of these issues for most of us. Also, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. And I'd also be very curious to know what your experience with insurance has been. As always, if you've enjoyed this video and you've gained some value, it would be really helpful if you would click the like button and maybe even leave a comment if you have the time. I would really appreciate it.